Ever since Kabul fell, ever since America walked away, there's been a question: do America actually want to lead the Western world now, or don't they?
My guest today is Nigel Farage, Honorary President of Reform UK and a presenter on GB News. Nigel, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Of course, pleasure to have you. We've got some heat for your tweet earlier today on Ukraine, which it's the news topic of the day. So you wrote, "Well, I was wrong. Putin has gone much further than I thought he would. A consequence of EU and NATO expansion, which came to a head in 2014. It made no sense to poke the Russian bear with a stick." Could you elaborate what you meant by that?
Yeah, 2014, the Ukrainian government was brought down in what was called the Orange Revolution. And it was interesting. In Kiev, there were people waving European Union flags. It had been European Union policy to extend, NATO policy to extend. All of this despite the fact we'd made promises after the fall of the Berlin Wall that NATO would not extend. And I could see Putin's anger at the time. And what we've done is to give him a nationalist cause. We've given the nationalist a cause, one that he can sell to the Russian people. And I've been right. Sadly, I've been right. We've provoked the Russian bear. He now appears to be out of control. None of what I said is as my critics would say, supportive of Putin. Funny, isn't it, really? You know, all these people that supported Iraq and Afghanistan, which I didn't, you know, all the warmongers are now saying I'm somehow pro-war. The whole thing is twisted around its neck. I, for 30 years, have felt this ever-eastwards expansion of both the organizations was a mistake.
So what now that you said he's been unleashed, so what is the response now from the UK? What should we be doing here?
Well, we're talking sanctions and fine, but all that does is push up the price of gas and oil, which means everyone pays. The other worry about sanctions is that it drives Putin closer to China in terms of, you know, where's he going to issue his bonds and raise money? Well, China. Where's he going to sell his gas and oil if we do slowly in Europe start buying less of it? China. And in the end, of course, China will swallow him up and have him for breakfast. But short term, that suits him. It doesn't suit us as a world for Russia and China to have got closer together. I think the big thing now is NATO. I understand why many Americans will say, well, look, you know, where the hell's Ukraine? Why does this matter? Excuse me. I understand why many Americans will say, well, World War I, World War II, how many times do we have to come? But if we don't defend the integrity of NATO now, and that means Poland and Estonia, if we don't defend that now, then the West is finished. As a cohesive unit. It will give great encouragement to China to do what the hell they want. And the truth of it is that NATO is nothing without America. Nothing.
Does Putin move on Poland and Estonia now that he's moved on Ukraine?
I don't know. I just don't know. But it has to be a fear. And, you know, frankly, ever since Kabul fell, ever since America walked away, there's been a question: do America actually want to lead the Western world now, or don't they? It's a big, big question. And there's no easy answer. So far, through Biden, it's difficult to determine what the answer to that question is. And most Americans won't want to get involved in a war in Europe. Sure. But equally, I think when push comes to shove, most Americans would want America to be the leader of the Western world. So these are the things that you have to weigh up.
Things are up in the air. Now, in terms of just, there have been responses from both the UK and America, but also Europe has had some responses too. Most infamously, I guess, Germany has decided to cancel the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. They're going to stop doing that.
After Donald Trump after Donald Trump vetoed it, and then Joe Biden approved it.
Right.
And Joe Biden also, of course, he approved a pipeline there, but closed a pipeline down in America. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up.
Right. So I guess the response from European countries, you're not seeing this as effective.
It's not very cohesive. I mean, today's a bit more cohesive. This week's been a shambles. Interestingly, the British have been quite strong. Brexit Britain has a much bigger voice than it had before, and we are seeing some of that. I suppose Boris Johnson's premiership has been saved because it was in a bit of trouble before. Elected as a Conservative and governing as a Liberal. It wasn't working out very well. We'll see. I mean, so there are two things to answer here. One is the future of NATO. Is America assuming that role unconditionally over NATO territory? The second question is Ukraine, what do we do? We're not sending troops in, but are we going to send in more kit? Are we going to get involved in airstrikes? Are we not? You see, those eastern provinces in Ukraine are Russian-speaking. I want to be with Russia. Western Ukraine doesn't. So, another big decision.
It's the possibility of maybe a divided Ukraine.
Ukraine didn't really work anyway. Just didn't work.
As a concept, or more in the sense that it was never going to work where Russia was at its doorstep?
It was never going to work, with Russia trying to put it eastwards and Europe trying to push it and pull it westwards. And Ukraine is a deeply divided, very corrupt country. It's a mess. Why the hell we ever wanted it in NATO to give Putin yet another casus belli, I don't understand.
We did speak a little bit before this about how the UK has eliminated virtually all COVID-19 restrictions.
England has.
England
has. Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland will follow, but they'll be a lot slower. Yes, taken us a long time to get to where we are, but we're there, and that's terrific news. It's a victory for a free press, and it's a victory for the independent-mindedness of enough Conservative backbenchers who rebelled against Johnson's position. Johnson has been forced into freeing us up. Thank goodness.
So you're saying that Boris Johnson would have preferred to maintain restrictions in the UK?
Yeah. Very clear at the end of December, he was calling Omicron an emergency. He's been forced to do this, but he's done it. So he'll want to take credit for it. I'm not sure he deserves it, but he probably gets a bit.
Sure. We're seeing similar things here in America where restrictions for Omicron were across the board and then all of a sudden they kind of fade away. Are we seeing something similar here?
Yeah, and even Austria started to ease. Just Canada and New Zealand appear to have gone mad. Completely mad. But no, I think the tide and force of public opinion now is going to push these governments back. I genuinely do.
Sure.
I pray so.
Now, before we wrap, I would love to talk to you. You were one of the architects of Brexit. You were very much in favor of this even before it was sort of a thing, when you were part of the UK Independence Party and then, of course, the Brexit Party. How has Brexit been for the UK? It seems like there were people that thought it was bad, but...
Well, look, I mean, the Conservative Party on their own would never have done this. Never done. There were critical voices, Eurosceptics, but I was Euro certain. We shouldn't be there. So, I mean, UKIP goes down in history as an amazing movement that completely changed the narrative in the UK. There is now, there's no going back. We're not rejoining. The anger is that Boris hasn't taken advantage of it at all. And his chief negotiator, Lord Frost, has even resigned his position in frustration. And you do wonder whether Boris actually ever believed in it, or whether it was a political weapon. Because he joined the campaign very late. He'd never ever suggested in the previous 25 years we should leave the EU. He was critical of bits of it. But look, we're better off than we were. We're speaking more freely on the world stage. We're able to join America in a deal on the nuclear submarines with Australia, which we could not have done. We would not have come out of restrictions as EU members. We'd had to have marched a bit with the others. So we're getting some benefits, but there's a lot more to be had. Overall, well, it's 7 out of 10 so far. There's a lot more to be done.
Sure. One final question on that note. There was a concern following Brexit about what to do with Northern Ireland. How have things played out on that front?
Terribly. Johnson said, oh no, it'll all be fine. It's not fine. Northern Ireland's effectively been annexed, economically annexed, by the European Union. It's a mess, and it's one of those areas that needs tidying up and pretty quickly. Otherwise, we could see more troubles in Northern Ireland. That's the last thing we want.
Absolutely. All right, well, that was Nigel Farage, Honorary President of Reform UK and a presenter at GB News. Nigel, thank you so much.